So in this short video, let me draw your attention to what is called a logical thinking. So logic, we know, is the science of reasoning and good argumentation in our everyday concerns and in our academic disciplines. We use a lot of logical reasonings and argumentations. But the thing is, we also make a lot of errors, or what I call a fallacy. Now the question is, what is a fallacy? A fallacy is an illogical argument, an erroneous argument. Now logic can be broadly divided into two: formal logic and informal logic. Formal logic is otherwise called deduction. Informal logic is otherwise called induction. In formal logic, we are concerned with the structure of the arguments, whereas in inductive logic, we are concerned with the content of the argument. Now, when we make errors with respect to the structure of the argument, that class or we fall into what is called formal fallacies. Now, if the case is the errors that occur in the content of the argumentations, that leads to what we call informal fallacies. In this short video, let me give a brief account of the common informal fallacies that we commit not only in our academic concerns but also in our everyday engagements. Now, informal fallacies can be divided into mainly three types: fallacies of relevance, fallacies of ambiguity, and fallacies of composition. So the first one is appealed force or argumentum ad baculum. It is the fallacy which involves a threat by the arguer to the physical or psychological well-being of the listener or listeners. But such a threat or force is logically irrelevant to the subject matter of the conclusion. Now let me give a conclusion, give an example. A child tells its playmate, "Sesame Street is the best show on TV, and if you don't accept it, I will call my big brother and he is going to beat you up." See, even if it is a small child, it is somehow other, it is trying to threaten its friend, and it wants to see that it establishes its desire. Okay, so that is what is called argumentum ad baculum. Now the next one is appeal to pity. It's another way of making things established. It is called argumentum ad misericordiam. An arguer tries to support a conclusion by evoking pity from the listener. I'll give an example. A taxpayer, he wants to see that he doesn't want to pay his tax. So somehow or other he would like to convince the judge why he is not paying the tax. If you find me guilty of tax evasion, I will lose my job and my kids will starve. Surely I am not guilty. So here the person says that he is not guilty. He is not ready to pay the tax, but still he says that he is not guilty. And why he is not ready to pay the tax? Because he says that his kids will be starving. So this is something like appealing to the pity of the other person. Now the next one is appeal to the people. Argumentum ad populum. It's not something which is raised against a person, but to a mob or a group. I think the best example that we can see, or the context which we can see, is in the case of ads or advertisements. In advertisements, the companies, they want to see that their products are being sold. So they want to make some appeal to a great mob. So everyone wants to be loved, admired, or recognized. The appeal to people uses these desires to get the listener to accept a conclusion. For example, someone from the marine group, so that faculty suppose he or she is speaking to her students. So she wants to see that her students are joining the marine group. So what will she be telling to her students? Oh, the few, the proud, the marines. So when she says so, the student will naturally feel that to be a part of that group or that community is something which is of great proud. So that is what is called argumentum ad populum. Now next one is the fallacy of accident. When a general rule is applied to a specific case, it was not intended to cover. I think I can explain it very beautifully through giving an example. Freedom of speech, we know, is one of the fundamental human rights, and it's a constitutionally guaranteed right. Now therefore, it is said X should not be arrested for his speech that incited the riot last week. So here, by applying or taking a general rule, we are taking it to a specific case. So it's something like a misuse of a general rule or a constitutional law for our purpose. So it's something like a misinterpretation. So that is what is called the fallacy of accident. Now move on to the next one. It is called the strawman fallacy. Now what is a strawman fallacy? When an arguer distorts an opponent's argument for the purpose of more easily attacking it, demolishes the distorted argument, and then concludes that the opponent's real argument has been demolished. Now the example which I would like to cite here is a representation from some of our students. See, the students, they want to submit a memorandum to the teaching faculty. So they are approaching the head of the department, and let us see what is their demand and how the teacher is going to respond. The student status committee has presented us with an argument favoring alcohol privileges on campus. Now what do the students want? Is it their intention to stay boozed up from the day they enter as freshmen until the day they graduate? Do they expect to open a bar for them, or maybe a chain of bars all over campus? Such a proposal is ridiculous. So here, see what happened to the memorandum, or what happened to the students' demand. See, instead of seeing what do the students really want, the listener or here the faculty say they somehow or other distort the whole proposal submitted by the students. So this is exactly what is called a strawman argument. Now next one is ignoratio elenchi, that is missing the point. See, most of us argue and argue, but there won't be any point in that. So when the premises of an argument supports one particular conclusion, but then a different conclusion, often vaguely related to the original conclusion drawn, appears. Now I will give an example. Crimes of theft and robbery have been increasing at an alarming rate. The conclusion is obvious. We must reinstate the death penalty immediately. Now here see, here the arguer misses the point. It is true that theft and robbery are increasing, but we have to see whether what type of action that we have to take. It is not that death penalty is being given for such simple crimes, isn't it? Because we know death penalty is given only at rarest of the rare instances, and not for something like this. Here we have to make some other arrangement, like making our disciplinary measures more strict or something like that. So here the arguer misses the point. So that's what is called ignoratio elenchi. Next one is red herring, the fallacy of red herring. When the arguer diverts the attention of the listener by changing the subject to a different but sometimes subtly related one. Usually I think children do it. If they want to see that something they want to get, they will just or simply divert the attention of their parents. We can see it. So I will give an example here. There is a good deal of talk nowadays on about the need to eliminate pesticides from fruits and vegetables, but many of these foods are essential to us. Carrots are an excellent source of vitamin, broccoli is rich in iron, and oranges and grapes are rich in vitamin C. So here, instead of coming to the point, see, actually the arguer just wants to divert the attention of the listener, and he wants to see that he wins his case. So that is what is called red herring fallacy. Now we move on to the next variety of informal fallacy. They are called fallacies of presumption. Now fallacies of presumption include petitio principii, complex questions, false dichotomy, suppressed evidence, etc. So the first one, petitio principii. So petitio principii is otherwise called begging the question. So the Latin term petitio principii stands for the request for the source. The actual source of support for the conclusion is not apparent, and so the argument is set to beg the question. I will give an example. Of course, humans and apes evolved from common ancestors. Just look how similar they are. So here what is the conclusion? Instead of coming to or arriving at a conclusion, here the arguer simply repeating or reinstating the premises. So usually in a logical argument, the conclusion is such that it follows naturally from the premises. It is not that the conclusion is simply repeating the premises. But in petitio principii, this is exactly what is happening, because when there is no point in arguing, or when the arguer fails to establish something, maybe he is using something like petitio principii. Now next one is complex question. When two or more questions are asked in the guise of a single question and a single answer is then given to both of them, it is called complex question, fallacy of complex question. Now this is usually this particular kind of a trick, I shall say, is being played when an arguer wants to see that he wants to trap somebody. He wants to trap the listener, he wants to question the listener. I will give an example. Where did you get the poison you used on him? Have you stopped beating your wife, etc. So that means here two questions are there, but it seems as if there is only a single question. So that is what is called a fallacy of complex question. Now false dichotomy. When a distinctive premise presents two unlikely alternatives as if they were the only ones available, the arguer eliminates the undesirable and finds the desirable as the conclusion. Again, this is a context or a kind of a fallacy which the children or kids knowingly or intentionally use with their parents, or when they argue with their parents, because they want to get their desires fulfilled. Now here is the example. Either you let me attend the Dicky Chicks concert, or I will be miserable for the rest of my life. I know you don't want me to be miserable for the rest of the life, so you will let me attend the concert. So here the child wants to see, or it's something like an exploitation of the very feelings of the parent, isn't it? Because no parent wants to see that their child is in misery. So that is what's called false dichotomy. Next one is suppressed evidence. The argument ignores stronger evidence that supports different conclusion. It works on the presumption that the premises are true, but in fact they are not. Example, most dogs are friendly and do not pose any threat to people who pet them. Hence, it would be safe to pet the little dog that is approaching us now. Actually, the dog that is coming to us, it is very dangerous, because we can see fluid oozing out of its tongue. So if we touch that dog, it is dangerous to us. But we know that, but somehow or other, we just want to suppress that evidence. So knowingly or intentionally, people do like that. So it's a case of suppressed evidence. Now next is fallacies of ambiguity, the third and the last variety which comes under informal fallacies. So what does the term ambiguity means? When I say something which is not clear, why I want to say not clearly, or why I am presenting it in an ambiguous way, because maybe I have got some other intention or some other desire I have got. That is why I do not want to make things clear. So that arises from the ambiguity of some form of ambiguity, either in the premise or in the conclusion. There are mainly two types of fallacies of ambiguity: fallacy of equivocation and fallacy of amphiboly. So the first one, fallacy of equivocation. When the conclusion of the argument depends on the fact that a word or phrase is used in two different senses in the same argument. Usually in a logical argument, there are three terms, and the three terms appear twice in the argument, but the rule states that though the term appears, or each term appears twice in the argument, in both the cases the term is to have the same meaning. Suppose we are using the same term with two different senses in a same argument, it amounts to 4 terms. So that will lead to an erroneous logical argument. Example, some triangles are obtuse, when whatever is obtuse is ignorant. Therefore, some triangles are ignorant. So this is what is called fallacy of equivocation. Now the last of the variety is fallacy of amphiboly. It occurs when the arguer misinterprets an ambiguous statement and then draws a conclusion based on this faulty interpretation. Example, Professor Johnson said he will give a lecture about heart failure in the lecture hall. Now here see what is the conclusion. It must be the case that a number of heart failures have occurred recently. So here it says something like a misinterpretation of what the professor in fact he intended. So like that, whatever we have seen now, fallacies of relevance, fallacies of presumption, fallacies of ambiguity or composition. So we in our day-to-day concerns, knowingly or unknowingly or intentionally or unintentionally, we fall into a number of fallacies. But if we are a little bit careful, we can avoid these fallacies so that our reasoning will be perfect and our argumentations will be sound. So we can just think logically. Thank you.